welcome to South TV Say It As It Is show. I am your host, Natasha Brown. Absolutely lovely to have you here again. And today, the question is, do you know how to speak your dialect? Can you make a sentence? Can you teach someone else? Can you even communicate in your local dialect? I hope you can, because I'm still learning. So stay tuned, because we're going to give you some insightful and also educative content right on the show. Don't go anywhere. And yes, do stay with us. All right, say it as it is show. And like always, Mr. Victor Sioku, woodworker extraordinaire, absolutely Shimal Furnitures.
Thank you.
And yes, traditionalist, like you know your title.
Peace.
Williams Abule, media practitioner, you are always welcome.
Thank you very
What's
much.
happening with the red hat today?
Since we're talking about languages and culture, yes, I have to represent.
All right. I thought you had won like some chieftains.
I wish I have.
Okay, so we have a special guest with us today, and I'm sure that you haven't seen him here before on any of our episodes. Mr. Chinomso Nzenwa.
Yeah.
I had to keep, recalling that in my head.
Thank you.
He is the co-founder of Igbobiri, an outfit that promotes culture and heritage, especially in Igbo culture, here in Nigeria.
Definitely.
Really nice thing to note. And you are so important to what we're going to be talking about today. And the topic for today is the slow extinction of our indigenous languages in modern times.
Yeah.
So, just to get right into this, who knows how to speak their dialect properly? Victor, where are you from? Inherently, where are you from?
Okay, I'm from Okwanam, Shimili North local government of the
Right.
Delta State.
Okay.
And unfortunately, if I tell you that, I just know about 30% of my language. I can speak, but hearing, I can hear virtually everything.
Okay, so 100% hearing, 30% speaking. William Sabule.
My case is different. Let me start by saying it that way. Unfortunately, I'm still like I'm very proud of it, because growing up though, I felt like I was really the hip guy for not speaking that very funny sounding language.
Ijo.
Yeah, I'm an Ijo man. Yes, I'm from Bayelsa State, Southern Ijo, precisely. Operoma is my community. And then, when I was growing up, and I discovered that whenever I went home, it was always a huge challenge communicating with my relatives, people that were very excited to see me. And then they go on speaking in their dialect, and when you respond in English, it's like, you don't know how to speak right. It's like, no, you could see the disappointment. Then I started becoming aware that it's not a hip thing not to speak your language.
It's not a work thing.
Yes, it's actually sort of a disadvantage in some aspects. So it really worries me. But today I could say I understand up to like say maybe 30 to 40%. But speaking,
Maybe less than 10.
yes, about that, unfortunately.
As for me, before I even get to you, Mr. Nzawa,
Okay.
because I think like you're 100 both hearing and speaking. But before I get to you, for me, as an Ijo girl, I can hear a certain percentage, say maybe 30%. That's pretty poor, but it's okay. I'm not sure that I can speak much, but 5% you can give that to me. But as an Igbo girl as well, because my mom is Igbo, I hear up to 75%. So you cannot necessarily sell me with the Igbo dialect. Now, when it comes to speaking, we're one of those people, when we travel back home, they say, oh, Becky, Igbo, you cannot hear. And the funny thing is, so to you, it's like, oh, you are appreciating me, and Becky, no. But to my mom, it was like, no, this is an insult.
Sure.
So as children, when we got back, from Abia State, that's where she's from, she insistently started speaking Igbo to us. Whether you hear, it's not her business, but she will speak it to you, drop an instruction, and she's gone. Wow. You sort it down in your brain. So we started understanding Igbo, whereby at least we can communicate in some way, and my parents started really speaking it, and that's how I got to at least hear close to 75%. So to you,
Amazing.
what's your own score? 100? Hearing and speaking.
I would not score
And
myself.
where are you from as well?
Okay, I'm from Abia State, and I wouldn't score myself so high. And I will give you an instance. When I wrote my SSCE WAEC exam in Igbo, when I was writing Igbo, later writing, people thought I was writing English because of the fluency. Because of the fluency, they were like, what are you writing? They saw full scap sheet field, next field, so I'm about to start. So I would say I'm good in speaking, writing and in reading, and in some other forms as well. In using Igbo language to do some other things.
Narration,
storytelling, poetry, Igbo poetry, and some other things. So, because when you're good and you have to explore some other ways to express the language. So not just speaking, and because I am very passionate, so I have to seek for so many ways to actually pass messages across.
All right, very well said. All right, so now before we even really delve deeper into this topic, I'll just read an article, like an excerpt from, an article I saw Guardian newspaper say 2022. Okay. Yes, and it was addressing both Nicodas National Institute for Cultural Orientation, and also NILP, Nigerian Indigenous Language Program. Now, before today's topic, I didn't know we had such things happening in Nigeria. Unfortunately, I'm being honest. So it reads, the alarm has been raised in social linguistic circles that over 90% of the world's 7,000 languages are likely to go into extinction in the next century. The situation is not different for Nigeria. According to experts, more than half of over 400 languages in Nigeria are endangered. More alarming is the speculation that languages such as Igbo and Yoruba, which are two of our major speaking languages here in Nigeria, may not survive the next 50 years if urgent measures are not taken to reverse the trend.
Wow.
Right? And this was rightly said by the man, Yahuza. He's apparently one of the key players in the Nigerian Indigenous language program. So this makes us understand that in the next 50 years is not necessarily far.
It's not.
Right?
Not,
Imagine that two of our major languages in Nigeria is likely to go extinct. Meaning there would come a time where people would say, oh, what is that? What are you speaking?
Yeah.
You're Nigerian, but you're asking, what are you speaking? Because only 5 out of 1 million might be able to speak it. And then it becomes like a foreign language.
Wow.
So it brings us to the question, why do we think people are lacking in interest when it comes to speaking our local dialect? Zenwa.
Okay, it's about how people perceive things, because the importance you place on things will determine your action towards it. And sometimes things can't just happen passively. Everything that is important to every family, every parent, he or she takes conscious efforts. You send your child to school at an early stage, you make sure he learns English language. There are subjects that parents are very conscious about, English and mathematics. They make sure that their children do well, because they know that those are foundation laying stones for most other things that the children will do in life. And that's why even at nursery, primary, secondary, high institution, you keep on learning English language and mathematics. Even in whatever you want to study, at year 1, you will do GNS, General Studies, English language. Just imagine doing English language for a period of 16 years, 16 years at different levels. It will be difficult for you to throw it away.
True.
It will be difficult. And now, what effort do they put into their own language in the life of their children? Forget about high institution, which they may not learn their local language in high institution, but what about home? What about those schools? Do they make sure that, during the PTA, they take their children to schools, or they tell the schools to incorporate local languages in the studies, in the curriculum, even if it's not a main study, maybe an extracurricular activity, maybe once in a week.
Or even an elective course.
Yeah, even an elective course once in a week. Because we know that, there may be students from different cultural backgrounds in a particular school if you choose one particular language. But why can't you do something in a school that will make children to stay rooted to their languages? And most times, parents leave so much to the teachers. No, everything have to start from the family. Because in the schools, there's a lot of English that goes on that isn't spoken in the school. But what about home? How do you communicate with the children at home? Because you don't need to score them, you don't need to scold them when they speak your native language, and they have to feel at home to speak that language. So a whole lot has been done that makes the language to gradually start
to make others lose interest in it and see the importance.
In school, back in the days, more than 10 years ago, a lot of students have been spanked and scolded for speaking their native language.
True, vernacular.
Yeah, there's this man, Bright Chimeze, he sang it in a song. He spoke vernacular, and his teacher punished him That's a real life story. That's what happened because I've seen it happen. Even in last year. Yes, somebody told me that his child spoke the native language in school, and the teacher was telling a parent, your child was speaking native language in school. Oh. Just imagine that. Reporting a child from is that
to the parent.
To the parent. The parent was angry. So is that a crime now or what? So a whole lot has happened, and is one of the major causes is the parents, because most of the things happen at home.
True.
And the only thing that anything is built at home, what the school has to do is just to build on it. Because there are many schools out there, and most of them are private schools. So most government schools most people don't attend government schools, and even it's not even compulsory anymore for it to be written in WAEC and all that. So many of those challenges. One of the reasons is the family is no more taking it so serious. But if they take it serious, they'll make sure the children learn it. In diaspora, there are parents, there are families that speak their native language so well because of how important it is.
Like the North American culture?
Sure.
Brazilians, Mexicans?
Sure.
Now, there are even Nigerians here, Igbo, Hausa, Yorubas, who have lived in US all their life, but their children speak their dialect so well. So it's about how important it is to them. And another reason why it's phasing out is I don't think there's a conscious effort by the society, by the government, because it's no more a rule to write an indigenous WAEC, an indigenous language in WAEC. It's no more a rule. So because most times students read to pass exam, and now if it's no more compulsory, most of them will relax.
And it's so true, because I remember back in secondary school, so I went to a federal government school, my secondary school days. I know that it was a major course for you to take. You couldn't leave it out.
True.
Take one, either Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo, right? And the funny thing was, you would learn from how to pronounce the letters to numbers, and also you would write essays, write letters
About it.
with the
that
language.
yeah.
And I actually wrote Igbo in my NECOM, and I'm not sure why yet, but I think in both.
Yeah.
I wrote Igbo because it was mandatory for you to do it. And funny thing, not to blow my horn, I think I got an A. but honestly, that was how important it was. And even though back in my secondary school days, we were not really speaking it in my home, but in school, because you had to read. In fact, we had pamphlet stories. Wow. You had to read it in Igbo and translate to English.
Wow.
How much can you really copy another person? Because the teacher would know.
Sure.
How are you interpreting just exactly the way another person is interpreting? That means you copied.
That's true.
So you could not necessarily plagiarize. So that gave us a foundation, like a bedrock.
Yeah.
At least we can say yeah, you know,
Sure.
and speak the basics. So it was really helpful. Yeah. So it made us see that it was quite important in that instance, even though now most of us might not be speaking it. But yes, it brings us to that part where the question is our government, are they not necessarily seeing the importance that our local dialect has to play in the preservation of our culture and heritage? Because I don't understand why it's no more enforced in our schools.
Yeah.
Victor, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think the government is playing cool right now because of the languages are also causing some divisions.
Oh, right.
Let's not also shy away from that. Okay? Because if we even go towards the Fulanization of Nigeria, we might go so complex. You know that Nigeria, the three languages, I'm trying to be fair, sorry, maybe I'm going a bit political, but the three major languages, you find out that somehow, they are fighting for who dominates. Okay? That is the reason why when it came on the floor of the house that languages, indigenous languages can be used and they will have an interpreter. In fact, there was a set out project that it will be funded so that there will be an interpreter, as in bring in technology so that there will be an interpreter, so that when you are speaking your Ijo, everybody, there's an interpreter to go through. Yeah. But aside that, you find out that, so these three major languages in their areas, you find out that in the north, you still have some state assemblies where they speak Hausa during legislation. In Yoruba, same thing. In fact, some of them, they make out a particular day and they must speak their indigenous language.
That is
Amazing.
interesting.
But where do you see that in the Igbo, in Igbo land?
Or in Ijo land.
Unfortunately, see,
Right.
you cannot shy away from your culture. And when language, if you miss out from language, your culture is gone.
True.
It's gone. And that is the reason why, if you check very well, today, we are living, yeah, we just left the Pride month, okay? But if you notice, a core Igbo person, you have your tradition, you speak your language, man, what will you be doing with being an homosexual? Because you know where you are coming
Yeah.
from. You know your root.
Sure.
So this is a very important topic. Everybody should make sure that, well, like me, I'll feel like a failed father if my child does not understand my language.
Yeah. Since we're talking about government involvement, I worry a lot because I know that in our educational system, we have 4-year program in the university to learn French, right? I don't think we have that for any of our languages here. Is there any degree?
I think we do.
Is there a
because he
degree?
said
There's a degree
something
for
about
Igbo language.
To learn Igbo
I think
for 4
your
years.
co-founder as well
Yes,
studied Igbo.
my colleague
Okay.
who works in the same organization with me, she studied Igbo in the university, in Unizik,
Okay.
for 4 years.
And how long do you think this has been?
For several years, especially schools in the southeast.
Okay, so that's another aspect will be that how well are we making our language and our culture look
Interesting?
Yes, interesting to learn because I remember you were talking about secondary school days where you were made to learn or to write in Igbo. I schooled in the north in Niger State precisely, and we were made to learn Hausa. And so yes, I learned Hausa very well. I used to speak Hausa fluently, but over the years I left the north and moved back this way. And of course, it became very difficult because there are no much people where you have to relate with the language. And growing up, I lost it.
Okay.
I still understand Hausa to a certain degree, but not so much. I can't speak it anymore because I've lost it. I don't use it. But while I was there, I used it. But I was still in my teenage years, so I didn't use it for so long. I'm saying that during those school days, it was quite boring to learn Hausa, even though it was mandatory. So during the Hausa classes, we sit in there, we just sat there, and then we allow our teacher do what they do, and then we make fun of some of the sounds and all of that, and then we left. I learned Hausa from the streets with other children because it
Just
was
associated.
yes,
with
because it was difficult to have the full fun without speaking the language. So we had to learn. So that's how I got it, not from the class though, because the class times were really boring. So how well are we doing to make this culture, this language? I loved going to the village with my parents back then for the masquerade displays. I loved it, how masquerade would chase us down with canes and all of that. And all of this had to do with the language, the culture. They all work pari passu. So what are we doing to really make our languages very interesting for young people to really say, okay, while learning English, I really would love to also learn my language and culture alongside.
And another issue that we would even have to talk about is the agenda of westernization.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Because the culture, the westernization of almost all the countries in the world, that's why you have China, you have places like Russia pushing back.
Sure.
We don't want that here. We have
Yeah.
the way that we behave.
Sure.
Because they make you look like you are third world.
Yeah.
When you speak, where are you from? Oh, what is your name? And you say, I'm a Zenwa, and they go like, Zenwa or something.
way.
So they're
Yeah.
trying to... It brings me to one particular interview that I watched. I can't remember the channel, but the woman was, I think she's an academia, I'm not sure, but a Yoruba woman. She was on an interview with a white woman, and she called her full Yoruba name, the woman, right? But the anchor, the presenter, someone like myself, was a white lady, and she could not rightly pronounce the Yoruba name, and you can't necessarily fault her. She didn't get it right, so she just wanted to continue with the interview. The woman called her back, no, sorry, you didn't get my name right. You would have to pronounce it, and she pronounced it again. This is how you say it. This. The woman did it a second time. She said, no, please try and get it right.
Okay. That's good.
I was cringing, but I was proud at the same time.
Sure.
The third time, the woman called it just the way the lady said. And the lady said, see, it wasn't so hard.
Yeah.
Because these people would effortlessly pronounce a Russian name
That's true.
that has all the checks and all that in it, that you don't even understand how the letters are
The
spelled. but you just
Chinese
have
and
to-
all of that.
They would pronounce your name, but when it comes to Africa, it seems like they just want to skirt over it. So when I saw that video, I was proud. People called the woman proud and said she was difficult, but no. If you can pronounce these other country names right, you can do so to me. So it brings us to that part of the westernization culture that is being propagated, especially in Africa, right? So him, like he was talking about, interesting, how are we trying to make our own interesting? So it brings us to that part of entertainment.
Yeah.
Mainstream entertainment. That's why I applaud people like I applaud a lot of the Yoruba entertainers. Victor, you speak Yoruba by default. Just because of a lot of our entertainers in Nigeria are Yorubas.
Yeah.
So I literally can speak Yoruba because of them.
Yeah.
People like Fino and Flavor propagating Igbo. Now I think the later song is the one that is Imaroyon or something like that. Almost everybody is singing it, and Yoruba boy is singing it. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So we have these people, and because of that, Gen Zs are also singing, and you also want to know what it means. You know, so how can we make our language interesting so people actually are excited to learn about it, just like we learn French and Mandarin and all of that on Duolingo?
Just to add before you answer, that's interesting for the very young ones because
Yeah,
they
for
are
Gen
now
Z.
they are now the future. And because I was speaking about myself from school days, that these languages were quite boring to learn for me. If you speak it to me, I laugh sometimes. I'll be like, "What did you say?" and all of that. So how can it really be interesting for the younger ones? I worry for my daughter. Just about 2 years.
Right.
Okay, I think it boils down to a number of things. One of them is language development.
Yeah.
You don't just teach. It's not just about teaching alone, because the general model of teaching in so many schools today, as it used to be so many years ago still, is only a few schools that are incorporating a lot of technological innovation in teachings today. Then how do government schools teach? Blackboards, whiteboard. Now, one of the major things is language development, just as I said, making things to be attractive to children, to the Gen Zs and children, because
Visually appealing.
yes, children are becoming wiser now. Yes, because children can navigate almost every mobile phone. They know how to use mobile phone. They know all the YouTube channels because that is what's appealed to them.
Yeah.
Why is it appealing to them? Most of the people that develop all these channels, all this content for children on cartoons, they pushed in a whole lot of effort, a lot of expertise to study how children reason and what appeals to them over time before they push in lots of funds, develop content that appeals to children, and infusing their own culture, the message they want to be infused in children. I'm not, the message are what they want, but most of the cartoons there's a lot of violence in it. You can testify. Most of them, even most of the most popular cartoons. So what can be done is we have to present our materials, our content in ways that are appealing to the children, not just telling them sit down and learn. No, engage with children. It amazes me how children respond when we teach them, because we have a facility where we teach. Sometimes we go to schools and give out a language outreach. We give out most of the materials. Some of the materials we have developed are very colorful, because I did research for years to check out the materials in books, in charts. Most of them are not appealing. Most of them are in black and white. How can you be doing
That's from
Igbo
there.
book in
That's
black
from
and
there.
white?
True.
You're telling a child this is okoko, and it's in black and white. That is not how it is in real life, because children colors appeal to them. So we have to make it appealing to children, make it engaging. How many cartoons in Nigeria can about cultural cartoon can compete with the likes of those ones
Marvel comics
that children watch? They sit 4 hours to watch. How many of them can compete? It's not a magic. They're not even forcing your children to watch. They're just pushing it out there.
How about our folk tales, that we used to see in the past, and then, communal,
Yeah,
like you
growing up,
gather,
yes, and
then
even growing
you
up,
have
I
your
remember
grandma.
on NTA.
Yeah,
There
we used to have
what time was
Tales
it? Was it
by
10 p.m.
Moonlight
for
or
Tales
so.
by Moonlight? Was it? I can't really
those
remember.
things really helped us.
Yeah.
And then again, I back then when you go to the village, you have your grandparents come and sit you down and tell you stories.
It was so interesting.
Stories. And then at the end, they ask you to tell them lessons you've learned from the story. And guess what? These stories are related to your community. So you get the characters from names of people that you can, identify with, and then places within your community that you can say, oh, so this is the tree Grandma was talking about. But then now those things don't happen anymore.
That was a special way of instilling values into kids.
That's very true. And
so a child is telling you, so they're telling you, oh, I learned not to steal. It's not good to be greedy. You are hearing all of those just
for a long time. I thought that the tortoise, as they tortoise was a very wise animal. Because the tortoise was more like this animal that was said to be extremely wise and cunning, that you can never really outsmart him, no matter how slow he was. And the snail and all of these things. So all of those things mattered. But now we don't hear those stories anymore.
Okay, there's so much that we have to do on this particular topic. And please do stay with us. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
Hey there. Are you looking to record your videos, do your voiceovers, and take your professional pictures? Look no further. With our state-of-the-art newsroom, photography, kitchen for our food content creators, and exclusive children's studio, we certainly can deliver the best studio experience. Our carefully designed studio space can bring your diverse creative content ideas to life. We aim to consistently serve value to our customers far and wide. Come, let Tharv Media give life to your dreams. Tharv Media, a slice of infotainment.
Welcome back. Okay, so we are up in the other segment, for the other segment of our talk show in other news. So now, there was a video that came out, and it was for one of the celebrities. She's a Nollywood actress, Destiny Etiko. She came out in one of her videos on Instagram, and she called out Yoruba entertainers, actresses, for speaking Yoruba in public, where there are other people, coming from the angle that etiquette demands that because you have other people in your space that do not speak your dialect, you should speak in English, and it is quite rude, that was how she talked about it, and it got a lot of comments and all that. So it brings me to the question. When you go to France, if you go to France, they don't care if you speak English or not. The typical Frenchman will speak French on the streets, except you approach them to ask questions.
That's true.
They would speak French, whether you hear it or not. If you go to China, they speak their dialect. So why do we have a certain bias when it comes to our own? Now, case in point as well, we had a BBN housemate by name Mercy Ake. She had what we call an Igbo accent. You could hear it in all of her speaking. And she got a lot of heat on that, why do you have an Igbo accent? And the typical Nigerian will call you out to say that you speak in an uneducated way because you have an Igbo accent or Yoruba accent. So we know that the typical Igbo person, if he wanted to pronounce market, is going to say market, right? Maybe a Yoruba person wanting to pronounce house might say house.
True.
But when we hear a British person speak, we identify that's a British accent. When we hear an American speak, we say that's an American accent. We say that's a French accent. So when it comes to us, what informs this bias we have? Oh, an Igbo accent is inferior. But when we hear a British accent, we're like, oh my God, that is so amazing. What do we have to say about that? I mean, it's totally appalling. Victor?
Okay, let's not forget that for Nigeria, our case is different. Reason because we were colonized by the British.
Oh, yes. Yes.
In all we do, we should still have that at the back of our minds. Okay. But aside that, there are still countries that were colonized by the British that they are holding their languages very strong. So, but I think lately, less about 10 years ago, it's been very, very bad. Very bad in the sense that parents don't care. Okay, like our parents cared. So you find out that if you don't take your child to that phonetic school, that means the child will not learn. Okay, and also I think now for our content creators, I think they need to double up. Because if you remember, when they now called Nollywood, it was called Igbo movie.
True. It started with Igbo
in an Igbo film.
Living in Bondage, the first Living in Bondage was shot in Igbo.
Yes.
Total Igbo.
So I don't see a reason whereby they cannot. Yes, I know money is not the main thing now. You want plenty views and all that, okay? And it's also not cool for our leaders, I mean the Igbo leader, not sponsoring, not supporting
True.
content creators. Okay? Because you can't tell me that when our kids start seeing those kind of contents, that, like you mentioned, fun content. And see, to make fun content, you need to bring fun money. You need to bring money. Okay, so we need situation whereby we need that kind of partnership. One person like you can't do it all alone.
True.
You need partnership, okay? And by so doing, you find out that, yes, I believe my children's generation, I beg, that they just have to correct the wrongs that happen.
True.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You talked about partnership and money because backstage when we were talking about your company Ibobiri, and we were talking about investment and investors, and you talked about how it's not very easy getting investors that see the future of what you were trying to do, because most investors are looking at instant profit. They're not looking long term. In fact, when you talk about longevity, when you talk about how the values you are creating now will push into 50, 20 years from now, they're not saying that because they want their monies instantly. So how would you rather say that these investors should approach such content? He talked about sponsoring content creators and all of that. How would you say they should approach investing in such avenues? Because at the end of the day, they need to make money.
True.
There are people who go into business just for the profit, nothing else. There are people who go into certain investment because they want the money and they also have passion for this thing. There are people who just want to promote this agenda, this vision, who want to preserve something, because sometimes if you don't raise your kids who have values that are important to you, those kids will end up squandering whatever fortune you have created. I've seen wealthy men who raise children who didn't instill their own local values and virtues, trained their kids outside country, and the kids came back home with different sets of cultural orientation. And their legacies that are built for years. The children don't care to even continue in their line of business, but they think that their father is doing business in an area. That is a local kind of a thing. Whereas their father is the #1 businessman in that kind of a business in the whole of Southeast, probably in the whole Nigeria. They don't see much need for it. So it needs people who see the importance of what we are doing, because I strongly believe in this. I know that even if somebody who is looking at money, there's always a time when a tree will yield. An orange tree and a corn doesn't yield at the same time.
True.
The importance of what we are doing lasts forever. So there will always be time when it will yield, because the importance and the value supersedes money. It supersedes money. If we build values and transfer these our values into our children and grandchildren, there's nothing that can actually take that away. But if we reap profit now and raise children that will bring in values and cultural orientation that are not in line with our own as we are building, it will destroy our economy and destroy even the money that we're trying to make. So they should look beyond the money. They will even make more money than they feel they can make in an instant. Definitely, because how many Igbos do we have over the world? Over 40 million. Every culture, every Nigerian tribe are in all parts of the world, most of them.
True.
So what they're going to benefit is beyond money. I can guarantee that, because we did a lot of research. We talked with people from US, UK, and so many parts of the world. Most people are literally, there's a woman, she has lived in US for 20 years. She's now a lecturer in Abuja. Her children said they will never forget that she never taught them Igbo language. They've had that at the back of their mind. It's not a hatred kind of a thing, but it's a word that they knew that for them not to learn their language and culture, their mother didn't teach them. So, and they have gradually lost track of their roots. So just imagine those people, how would they raise their children to be connected to their roots? So the circle keep on expanding, and more people keep on being disconnected from their roots.
Very true.
It brings us to even what you do, the Ibobiri Foundation, and so you put out pamphlets, you put out papers, leaflets like this, from time to time, and this one even teaches the parts of the body of a male, the male anatomy, and then you look at it and the parts of the body.
We have these. We have so many other pamphlets as well.
I need to be enrolled in what you're doing.
I really would love
come on board.
And then it's so beautiful because your all the parts of the body, it's in Igbo, and the eyes, aya, and all of that, the knee, So you look at this, and because of how beautiful it is and how colorful it is, and it's so precise for a
Sure.
child. So it's not, too cumbersome for the child to the child can literally look at it. Even a 6-year-old, 5-year-old
Sure.
can look at it and say, oh, mommy, what is this? Oh, Obi, my heart,
Yeah.
Sure.
So little things like that. So this is basically one of the things that you do. And I know that there are other aspects, to Ibobiri as well. And I'm hoping that, investors see the light of it. But it brings us to this other part of leveraging of technology to be able to also make our language interesting. So, for example, I know that. So I'm from Opobo.
Okay.
We're not inherently Igbo people. Forget what is said out there. We are Ibani people.
Okay.
That's my language, and I'm proud to say that I know that because I have a very traditional father. He's one of he travels to the village like every other day.
That's good.
He even says. When he's really old, we can send him over there instead of take him out of the country. And then I'm wondering. But anyway, so one thing that they did in order to preserve the Ibani language in Opobo was to create a pamphlet for the youths. So they printed it out and distributed it to each compound. So you could give to your own, and your own could make copies of it and give to others. That is good on one aspect, but how many people will be able to get access to the hard copy? So something that could have been able to be leveraged to make it more interesting would have been to create a platform, a website, an app, where you can download it on your mobile phone. And then it can be like an audio book in form of an audio book or an ebook, so that those in the diaspora can have direct real-time access to it, and be able to listen to it. And then even at that, so we could have like a YouTube channel where we do primarily Ijaw-centered or Igbo-centered, Ibani-centered content for kids, like Cocomelon on YouTube and all of that. So we are not rightfully leveraging of technology, because at the end of the day, I believe that we still feel quite inferior about our language, so to speak, and we don't necessarily see the profitability of it. That is why I applaud people like Kunle Afolayan and Kemi Adetiba.
There's also Chimamanda,
And
Chinua
Those
Achebe. These are people.
effortlessly propagating the gospel of our
And
dialect.
our stories, they tell it.
They tell you, if you don't know about it, you have to go and check it out. And the good part of it, that, backstage, we also did an experiment. Where we were talking, and then I said, let's check AI, let's check ChatGPT. Let's see if they can be able to translate an English sentence to Igbo. We did that, and it literally translated it. And they're like, wow. And then, but I gave it to him to vet as the language expert.
Okay, so was it correct?
He gave AI 40% because in as much as it was translating it, it didn't have the human element.
Yeah.
So it was just translating it word for word. So a typical Igbo person would know that this one, you are learning it in and
flow is not.
Now, we also did another experiment with Google Translation. Same sentence, we put it on Google Translation, translate to Igbo, and gave it to him to vet. And when he checked it, he said, for Google, they scored about 80%. 80%. Because, so at the end of the day, that's another avenue each and everyone can explore. So we cannot say, they did not teach me at home, so I cannot learn. Use your mobile phone.
Google.
If you don't want to travel to your village, use your mobile phone and check. So how can I do this in Igbo so that we can help? And another thing that would even make us see the importance of our dialect is we hear stories. So people, for example, there was one particular story on Twitter. This guy was stranded in the UK. So they were on the train. They were on the train in a bus. Another black man was seated by him, but you would not know, is this a Nigerian? I'm not sure. Let me not disturb you. He was stranded, didn't have a place to stay. He didn't know what to do.
Oh my God.
This next person by his side picked up a call and was speaking Igbo on the phone.
Oh my God.
Immediately he knew, this is one way or the other, you will help me. The guy got off the phone and then he spoke. I think what he said was, what's that thing where you say, you are my brother? Or
One
for.
Yeah,
so 1 4, so even 1 4 or something like that. And then they hit it off.
Oh my goodness.
Hit it off. And then he said, this is what I'm going through. And therein, this guy was able to take him in and help set him up, like connect him to a job to do. That's how he was able.
And that's how powerful language is.
That's how powerful. Would you go and speak Igbo to a Frenchman? No. But just because he was able to just identify that you're my brother one way or the other. So
and so that
yeah.
that makes it a point that language is also a powerful weapon that you can use. Like I call it a weapon in the sense that it can always defend you.
Sure.
Like I have been in situations where I'm looking at somebody that can actually get something done for me, a fellow Ijaw man, and I know that if I speak English, he'll probably relate to me as official. But if I do the greeting in Ijaw or go beyond that, he will take me as a brother. But most of the time I'm handicapped. And I worry a lot. That's why I'm very concerned. That's why I'm very concerned about my children. They must speak one language in this country, Nigeria, whether it's my Ijaw, whether it is Igbo, whether it is Yoruba, whether it is Hausa. Anyone you can lay your hands on and learn it and be very good at it, it becomes a defense for you. It becomes some kind of a connect for you. So I really am worried about our younger generation, people coming up, people like me now. Maybe I need to go to school for like, or like maybe do a course in Igbo to pick one language.
Brings us to the question, so what's the way forward? What's the way forward actually? How can we be able to preserve our indigenous language? How can we be able to do that?
Okay. There are rules that everybody has to play. First of all, parents, because parents are leaving us so much to schools. That is not good. Schools, their own is secondary assignment. They can speak English in the schools, but at home, this is home. Your language has to be spoken at home. Parents have to make their children consciously speak their language at home. Parents have to start it by speaking to them. By consciously speaking, they will start responding, number one. Number two is to make sure that any cultural events, try to take your kids there. But there are things children learn when they observe. They don't learn culture by sitting at home only. No, when they see how it's done, they participate. Cultural dances and all those things. All those local songs in local dialects, Igbo songs or your language songs, let them listen to those songs. Movies, don't only let them watch cartoons alone. There are cartoons in our local languages that are also good. People are doing things. People are beginning to do things here in Nigeria, in many languages. Let them watch those things. Let them associate with people from your language, all those village meetings or end of year events. Last year, our organization hosted a kids hangout on language and culture. We hosted it and a lot of children turned out. It was an amazing thing. So this kind of things helps. And the schools have to make it a point of duty to find a way that children have to stay in tune with their culture. It's not just about money, yes, but even by that, many parents will be willing to pay for you to even bring an activity or a program that will make their kids to learn. Government should, ministries of education should make rules and policies that will promote. It's no more compulsory to write local language in WAEC again, but some things can be done. Government is no more taking history as compulsory. So, but all of these things has a signal it sends to children. It's not compulsory. Many students will just relax. So government have to take it as a point of duty to develop languages. China took it as a very important feat. Many technology in China are in Chinese language. You have Chinese keyboard. Many of those things are in their language. And it boosts their economy. So everybody has a role to play. Everybody, even the society, even we adults. Just imagine many millennials can't easily speak their language. Then imagine Gen Zs. What's going to happen? Imagine what's going to happen in children who most of them may not like the language. How can they now speak or embrace the language that they've not really fallen in love with? So which means the decline will keep on increasing. So if we have not made them love it now, it will be difficult for them to love it when they grow up, because by then they'll be independent. They will not be in control of their parents.
They might have even immigrated to another land.
Sometimes the way you have spoken about it, it kind of like raises the awareness in me that this is an emergency.
It's really important.
It should be declared as a state of emergency.
And most things are passed through language. If your child can't speak in your language, you can't communicate a lot of things to him. You can't teach him a lot of things at all. You can't pass your culture. You can't pass so many values. There are things you can't easily teach in English language. How can you pass an Igbo adage, like all those Igbo?
Give us one Igbo
like when we hear Peter, don't
give us one
put down those proverbs. Victor,
do you have anyone in hand?
Hold on, Victor. Victor, you're really itching to say something.
No, just when you were saying that it's now an emergency, and I want to tell you that our children, when they get to our age, they are still say the same thing, that it's now an emergency. Your culture is your culture, and without language, you cannot hold on to your culture.
Very true.
Right, very interesting. Okay, so it brings us to the question of the day. This is an exercise. Can you speak your dialect? And if yes, say a sentence in your dialect. So this is where we're going to,
So we're all
shake
doing
ourselves
that now.
up.
We're doing that now. Are we doing that now?
We have to start. I represent one for now.
Why would you start with Tagalog?
No, don't start with me. Let me be thinking of how to say it. Because that would be
So it might not be a sentence, but just a word, a
Something,
greeting,
yeah.
something in your dialect. Victor.
Okay.
The emperor, the lion.
that one is in English now. That's in English. That's been
No,
done.
I had to bring that up.
Okay.
So, how will I say? Where do I start? What do you want to ask me, man?
Just say good morning, say welcome, say something.
So now in my place, mind you, I grew up in Aba. I know how to speak Central Igbo. I can write Central Igbo. I can read and write. Like you were saying. See, shout out to my Igbo teacher, who was also a Yoruba teacher.
Wow.
Yes, and also shout out to my mentor. Thank you for reminding me, Professor Nolu Emenanjo. Okay.
Of Uniport.
If you did Igbo in the 90s and in the 2000s and you did not read his book, that means you did not study Igbo.
That's true.
Okay. So in my place, we had many ways to greet. Okay. And it's still confusing to me now because everybody has their own title. Yeah. So for the women, they call them Oriofe. Okay.
In what dialect is that?
In Opanam.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyoma people. Okay.
Okay.
Now, then for the men, we have different. So when you greet somebody, we still greet Oba. Okay. We still greet Ogene. Okay. But it is for different kinds of persons.
So if you're greeting an older person, like an elderly man, what do you call
So you need to know the family the person is coming from. Because that group there, they have what they greet them. So when you greet somebody, Oba, the person will tell you, say, no, greet me Ogene. So that is how complex it is.
It's complex.
But that is culture for you.
Yeah,
And I'm so happy about that because that makes you to know everybody in your community.
Who is who?
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Is it back to me now?
You are not going to leave this house.
I was almost hoping that I'm going to get out of it. All right, in my place, I'm just going to do the good morning thing and how you greet an elderly when you see one. Okay. So good morning in my place is say, Seride. Seride, the literal English meaning would be, have you awoken? Are you awake? That kind of thing. Then when you see an elderly, you say, Okwede. That's something like I honor you, like I respect you. That's how you say it in my place. So.
Oh, interesting. You're not that bad. Come on. You're not that bad. Okay, so for me, anybody, basically, if I wanted to say, how are you? I would say Toro. That's how we basically say, yes. Okay. So, and then for the elders, you call them Ida, right? And all of that. So I'll just pause there. So I don't do too much. Wow. Okay, so to you. His Royal Highness.
Say hey, Igbo kwenu. Hey, Nigeria kwenu. Hey, Africa kwenu. Hey, wanile kwezu ono. Igbo ndịọma biko nke onye ji ya jisie ike. Ọ ebe onye bi ka ọ na-awachi. Unu na-ahụ na asụsụ anyị dị ka ọ na-ehi ụra biko ka ọ hapụ n'isi n'ụra fere n'ọnwụ. Biko ka anyị mee ihe dị mkpa ihe ahụ dị anyị mkpa ime. Ọ bụrụ na asụsụ gị dị gị mkpa biko mara ihe ị ga-eme. Ụmụ gị na-asụ asụsụ gị ana m anụ ọtụtụ ndị mmadụ na-asị junior na anọ mana ọ naghị asụ ka ihe nwe ya ahụ. Biko gbalịa ka junior ahụ sụba. Ị na-asụrụ junior n'ụlọ junior ga-ebido sụgbara gị. Asụsụ anyị dị anyị mkpa. Ama na ọ dịghị mfe. Ahụkwana ihe dị mfe n'ụwa. Ụbọchị niile junior na-amụ French na ụlọ akwụkwọ, junior na-amụ Spanish na ụlọ akwụkwọ. Why can't junior learn that your language? Kenye mụrụ iji were French na Spanish menye adị mkpa karịzi asụsụ gị. Jee ụlọ akwụkwọ ebe a na-akụziri junior ihe na skuul. Gwa ya si onye isi ụlọ akwụkwọ gịnị mere a na-akụziri nwa m asụsụ m? Ọ dị mkpa biko gwa onye na-akụziri ụmụ gị ihe ka ha nwee ike na-akụziri asụsụ gị na ụlọ akwụkwọ. Mana nke kachakwa mkpa wụ asụsụ gị ka ị na-asụ ya n'ụlọ. Teach your language, speak it in your home. So asụsụ gị ahụ n'ụlọ gị. Ọ nke ahụ kacha mkpa. Because if you don't speak it in your home, how do you expect the teachers to teach it in the school.
Yeah.
Because our Ndibo say na anes no law manama for Bama. That means what charity begins
At home.
Okay, too.
You don't complete history because you're not title chief.
Okay, yeah, interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up because all of those things have meanings. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really don't know what Junior did to you, but you were dragging Junior right there. But thank you so much. That was so amazing. All right, so it brings us to the quote of the day, and it's by a man called Benjamin Lee Wolfe.
Okay.
It says, "We dissect nature along lines laid down by our native language. Language is not simply a reporting device for experience, but a defining framework for it." Language defines you. So today, from today's topic, from today's discussion, I hope you have been buoyed up to learn your dialect. I mean, Nigeria is amazing. Our languages are beautiful. I mean, greet your neighbor in Igbo if you're from, an Igbo-speaking state. Yoruba if you're from a Yoruba-speaking state. I mean, let's embrace our culture. If you're out there in the diaspora, speak your language. Let them ask you, what are you speaking? And you're like, I'm an Ijaw person. That's what we speak. So at the end of the day, I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you've loved it. This is Staff TV Say That's the show. Remember, stay tuned, like, share, subscribe. Give us your comments. Let's know what you think. And also make a video of you speaking in your dialect. We want to see
And
that.
then before you go, please don't forget to drop your own line, with your language on the comment section.
Sure.
I'm sure we can use Google Translation to read your comments from your language, what it means. All right, drop a proverb, drop anything at all in your language. It will also remind you that you know how to master your language. So people want to hear from you.
All right. Thank you so much. And bye for now. See you next time.
Yeah.